All right, we are back here on the Bako Motorsports Power Hour. We're brought to you by the Bakersfield, California. Now we're joined by Steve Hughes of Kern County Raceway Park. As we mentioned, everybody's running this weekend, but guys coming off that great opening night, looking to do some great things this weekend of the big race, right?
Absolutely, getting settled into our regular season, I guess you could call it. We'll do our regular season Saturday night this weekend, and then right back into it with the SRL Southwest Tour on April 18th with the DC's RV Center 100. So we're looking forward to that.
What are you expecting from this weekend's event?
You know, we're trying some new things.
Right.
Something you don't see a lot of here around Bakersfield is drifting with Just Drift.
Right.
These guys come in and put on a great show. They burn more tires than.
I think we got video of that.
Do we? We want to start with that.
Yeah, let's show this. Some of this.
Oh
video.
yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you'll see. A couple of cars going around near our quarter mile. They'll set up a little course there and smoke shows and getting sideways on the asphalt, man. It's you know, they look like imports, but a lot of these little Miatas with LS1 motors in them, so they can definitely spin those rear tires and put on a great show for the race fans. It's going to be great with Just Drift.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, the GoPros on them. There's all different. If you go to the Just Drift website or their Facebook page, you can really check out a lot of their videos. It's really pretty exciting. So they'll put on two 20-minute exhibition races for us on Saturday night with Just Drift. So we're hoping to get some new race fans out there to the racetrack to enjoy this drifting. And another great thing is the WRA Vintage Racers. So open wheel cars, midget sprint cars, and some super modifieds from the 50s, 60s, and 70s are going to join us out there, and they'll be actually on the track for about a 20-minute show as well.
Yeah, you think about this, you know, on the heels of the Fast and the Furious movies, you know, this weekend, you know, with a $140 million domestic opening, you know, to me that just shows how popular racing still is, you know, to a lot of people. It's a different audience than we normally would have, right?
Just motorsports in general, man, are so popular. And with, like you say, you know, Furious 7 coming out, and with the things that went on, you know, before with Paul passing away in that crash, and just the popularity of that franchise. And yeah, it's going to be similar to what you're going to see in I mean, I don't know if you remember Fast and Furious 2, Tokyo Drift.
Right.
They say
all drifting.
wasn't the best Fast and Furious, but it's going to be similar to that. And we've got some guys. One of the advisors and judges from Just Drift is a professional drifter, and he'll be out there at the track on Saturday as well.
So one of the many interesting things, I mean, this is again showing the variety of the late model twin 35s, NASCAR Super Stocks, NASCAR Mini Stocks, Legends, Just Drift, and the Vintage Racers. The Vintage Racers, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are like they're open wheel cars, but tell me a little bit more about those.
You're going to see open wheel cars that have raced all over the United States, in USAC, on dirt, on asphalt. We're going to see some super modified cars out there, really from the heyday of open wheel racing when it was all about USAC, you know, back in the day when USAC still had the Indianapolis 500. We're going to see cars where drivers went from those cars right into the Indy car for the 500. I believe the Vukovic car is going to be there. We've got a great group with the WRA coming in to really put on a good show. There are going to be some cars on display. They'll be actually with us on the front straightaway for our autograph session, so the fans can come down and really get a good look at these vintage race cars. And then they'll put on a great show for us on the track as well. They'll be They won't just be cruising. They'll be up to speed there a little bit on the half mile on Saturday night.
Nice. Yeah. What do we expect in the late model race? Who are we going to see, and what do we expect?
Well, you know, it's that top five. I mean, we've got great racers in that division. You know, guys like Josh Horn, guys like Chris Dalton are kind of on the outside looking in, hoping to move into that top five. But it's going to be, you know, the Richardson cousins, Eric and Brian. The 51 of Racing Vernon really has started to make a move this year. Buddy Shepard in the 22S car. It's going to be those guys. Those five guys are going to be really the ones to watch. But I have confidence that guys like Josh Horn and Chris Dalton are ready to go and going to be mixing it up with those guys this weekend.
What do you suppose, like, you know, Chris Dalton coming from from, he was your Spec Mod champion.
Back-to-back Spec Mod champion, yeah.
How much of a learning curve do you think it is from that car to the late model?
There's a lot more horsepower with that late model, a lot more adjustability. I think there is a little bit of a learning curve, but he's got a great group behind him with the folks from Victory Circle and great sponsors. They just got a new sponsor, the Vagabond Inn, of course, DC's RV Center, the Phone Guy, Motor City GMC sponsoring that car. So they've got a lot of great support and a lot of guys working on that car. I think the learning curve isn't as steep as you think it would be.
Right. Okay.
They just have to find some speed.
The other one too is that you've had like a week or so to kind of think about,
digest it a little bit.
More, but that the first late model race kind of sticks in my mind because we talked about that Eric got out and pretty much ran away with it, but that race for second, Racing Vernon said later, I had some issues with my brakes, but what was your biggest takeaway from that first race?
I wasn't surprised to see those 4 cars battling for second through fifth for those 75 laps. So it went caution free.
Right.
The advantage that Eric Richardson got was that he jumped out early.
Yeah, right.
If you go back and look at the lap times, almost identical from first back to about 7th place.
Right.
It's just the guys weren't, they got mixed up in racing side by side, exchanging a little bit of paint there, a little bit of donuts on the doors here and there, and that's what allowed Eric Richardson to stay out in front because he wasn't really blowing the field away. He just jumped out early, and those guys were trying to settle second through fifth back behind him, and that allowed him to maintain the lead and get the first win of the year. Where I was surprised was those youngsters that really were able to race cleanly, go caution free with of course our champion Brian Richardson and the 51 car.
Yeah,
Lance Wilson.
I was surprised that Racing was on Eric the whole time. For a big chunk of that first part of that race, he was right there with them. And then he says, he had some little issues, that kind of let him go back a little bit. But I mean, that was a big takeaway for me because I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to keep up enough, but he certainly proved it though.
He certainly did, and you could throw a blanket over those 4 cars for those 70 for just about the entire 75 lap run.
So, do you anticipate that we're going to have more, like a lot of, you'll see some different winners in that class?
Absolutely. It's a highly competitive class. Everybody's looking for a little bit of an advantage. I think when you go to qualify, the person that gets the Budweiser qualifying pole that wins the pole award, sponsored by Budweiser, is going to be a very important part of it, and it's really going to shake out to see who can get out front early and try to maintain the lead and hope that those guys will battle behind them to give them that advantage.
What's going to be the schedule like for Saturday night?
Saturday night, we're changing things up just a little bit. We want to start big and finish big. So we'll have our opening ceremonies at 7. Right about 7:15, we'll start off with our first late model twin 35. So we'll start with the late model 35 and we'll end with a late model 35 as well, and have some great racing sandwiched in between all of that. And with Just Drift and the WRA Vintage Racers, we anticipate a great night of racing action.
All right, I got more questions for you. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more with Steve Hughes in our final segment, and we'll be right back with these messages.